Hello and welcome to our YouTube show. It's Deb and Bec, and we have got a really exciting show for you this evening. So before we kind of dive into it and get started, what have we got? Oh yes, our question this week is, can a pandemic cause me stress? And our topic this week is love and trust. So we're a bit excited about talking about that. But before we dive in, I want to share something that we have got coming up, because I know, like, the conversations we've been having with people over the last few weeks, we've kind of put ourselves out there and invited you to coffee and chats, and we've invited you to have spend some time with us like that. And a theme that's kind of been coming for us is that people, with everything that's going on, the pandemic and the way that the world is at the moment, there's a lot of worry about money at the moment. And I can really identify with that, because for many years I had a lot of thinking about money, and I really saw money as outside of the principles, something that was out there. So Bec and I decided that we would put together a money program for you. And I'm going to confess now to saying that I can't remember when we decided. 1st of May? Yes. It came to me as I was saying that. Yeah, so we're going to be starting a money program on the 1st of May for 30 days, where you will get a video or an email, or in some way we will be in touch with you every single day for 30 days. And afterwards there will be some stuff there that you will be able to keep forever, that will be yours. So if you'd like to join us on that, we decided it's not quite ready for people to sign up yet, because we've only sort of been talking about it for a day or two. But as soon as we put it out there, the first 5 people to sign up for it will also get a free one-to-one session with Bec and I. So if you're interested, please do let us know, because we're really excited about that.
Yeah, that should be out on the website hopefully by the end of this week.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited because I've been pinging emails back and forward with a couple of people today.
Yeah, I've got some great
who
people.
have agreed, to do a couple of video interviews for us as part of that program. So it's not just going to be us. There's going to be some amazing other people
lovely
too.
Guest speakers.
And look out for the names on who that is once we announce that. Also coming up in May, we are doing our next mini mentoring program, which is we absolutely love these. It was something we decided to do towards the end of last year as just a little taster, no obligation taster for what a mentoring program is like. And just for about a three or 4 week period, we do a weekly group call and then a bonus surprise. And so our next one is starting in May. And also in May, we're doing an online hangout. This was
it wasn't supposed to be.
No, it wasn't, as you can probably guess. With all the chaos, we're moving a fair few things online that we haven't done online before. But we have done a hangout before face-to-face, and our next face-to-face one was due to be in May, but we're anticipating that might be a bit tricky. So the couple of people that had already booked on have very heartily agreed, yes, to join us online. And then as soon as we can set a face-to-face date, we're going to do that. But what we're offering is anyone that wants to join us for that online event, you can either just join us for the online one in May, or you can join us for that and secure your place for the face-to-face event when that does happen.
So if we are ever allowed out of
lockdown.
If we're
ever allowed to see humans face-to-face again. And so mini mentoring and hangout is happening in May. And for anybody that signs up to either of those before the end of April, we're offering an additional bonus of a video that Deb and I will put together just for you on any question you want answering. So that's kind of it. If you sign up by the end of April, you'll get that bonus, and you can sign up for those on our website, daretobeyou.co.uk.
And I'm pretty sure the website information is underneath this video,
is, yeah.
So you can find it there.
Pretty good at doing that.
I kind of learning that now, getting together. So learning that takes us very nicely into our living, learning and loving for this week.
Yeah.
So probably last week, the last couple of weeks, I think I've talked a little bit about the fact that I got an email from Nicola Bird, which anyone who was on her mailing list will have got it, saying that she is starting something called the Floral Project. And I dived straight in. I don't know quite what was going on with me there, but I dived straight in and signed up for that. And I spent quite a lot of the weekend out in the garden doing my first preparations for the seeds and everything that I'm going to be doing in this flower garden that we're going to be creating. And the idea behind this garden is that we will grow flowers that we can pick, that we can give to people to have like a beautiful bunch of flowers. You know, anyone that we visit, anyone like that, we can give them some cut flowers, a really beautiful bunch of, you know, nicely, what's the word, properly grown, what is it when you
Like a
not,
bouquet of
yeah, but
flowers?
no, I mean like sustainably or
Oh,
whatever
sorry.
it's, you
Right.
know, kind
Okay.
of grown in what's the word that I mean,
I don't actually know.
oh, anyway, not kind of commercially grown, just grown in a back garden, nicely grown in that way. Um, so, and my learning around that has been huge. All about learning about soil, learning about how to create a nice growing environment. And one of my biggest learnings has been patience, because I am not. It's not been a forte of mine, this patience. I've very much been the kind of person who wants something now, or actually yesterday. You know, now's a little bit late, you know, yesterday. And I definitely think, you know, during lockdown, with us not being able to just go out and buy stuff, and even when we're ordering stuff, it's kind of like you're in a queue. If you go onto a website, you often have to queue. Things are running out, things are not being delivered, things are so, and then foraging all around, you know, locally on our farm. And I spoke to someone and they let me have some horse manure for my garden. So I've really, really been learning to be patient, because I can really notice for me personally, when something doesn't happen the way that I want it to happen and on the time scale that I want it to happen.
Yes. I want it now or yesterday.
That's kind of the two times, you know, when I'm ordering something, my seeds or want, you know, it's, yeah, now or yesterday is kind of when I want it. So it's been, yeah, definitely, I've been living the creating the garden and learning very much about how much of my uncomfortable thinking comes from me wanting something to be a certain way and wanting it to be that
Mm.
way right here right now.
Yeah, that's funny, isn't it? Because interestingly, like the thing that was going through my mind when I was thinking earlier about what I've been sort of learning this last week was the word contentment.
Yeah.
Contentment, very much like I read something on Facebook earlier. Someone had shared some really funny kind of facts and stuff, and one of them was something like 100 years ago. Most people had a horse and cart, and if you were quite posh or well off, you had a car. And now it's the other way around. Most people have cars, and if you're quite posh, you have a horse. And it kind of really sparked something in me that exactly like Deb was just saying, because of kind of what's happening, there's a lot of stuff that's not available quite so instantly. Like my nan messaged me the other day to say she was struggling to get hold of wool and she's nearly out and wants to do her knitting. And just everything I looked at on Amazon, like I'm so used to next day delivery on anything, and I thought, oh, I'll get her some wool and it'll come tomorrow. And I started looking and it was going, you know, this was Sunday, oh, it'll come Thursday or Friday, or a week on Thursday or a week on Friday. And it kind of just reminded me that it's not that long since kind of next day delivery was a thing. Like it's only maybe, I don't know, a couple of years when I used to order something online and I'd expect to wait a week or 2 weeks for it to be delivered. And actually, that kind of happy anticipation of something that you know you've got to look forward to, as opposed to that instant kind of gratification. Something in that's just really, you know, the contentment of,
Yeah.
do you know what? If I've ordered something and it's a week before I get it, how exciting that for a week I get to think about what, you know, what might be coming and what I can do when it gets here. And I know that's part and parcel of what you've been seeing around the
Mm.
patience and the gardening, and you've ordered some seeds and those kinds of things. And when they get here, then you've got to plant them and wait for them to some seeds and those kinds of things. And when they get here, then you've got to plant them and wait for them to, you know, and I've really been seeing that contentment doesn't come from having the things we think we want here. Contentment doesn't come from having the things that we tell ourselves we want or need to be okay. Contentment comes from being okay with what we do have. right now.
Yeah, I've really seen that around the
Mm,
patients, and I suppose it is just another way of saying that
yeah.
same thing, isn't it?
Mm,
If we are just perfectly okay with what is in this moment, I've really enjoyed creating the flower beds with what I've got, and it was absolutely kind of a test because very much I noticed my thinking kind of saying to me, well, no, you need this and you need it to be like this and you need
mm,
to have this. And I've, at knowing that I don't have to listen to that thinking in that
yeah.
moment and I can just come back to, well, this is what you've got in front of you now. So just enjoy this that you've got in front of you right now.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
it's been huge learning and it's really shown me something about me. One of the things that we point towards a lot of the time is know thyself. And
Yeah.
it's not a mistake that is one of the deepest spiritual teachings, know thyself. And I'm, coming back and noticing what my thinking does, noticing that my thinking can get ramped up when I
Mm,
haven't got what I think I need in this moment. And yet, when I don't listen to that thinking, when I don't take any notice, what I notice underneath that thinking is that I have got everything that I need. We had an absolutely beautiful weekend in the garden. We had
mm.
such fun, didn't we?
Yeah, just making all sorts of, because that actually kind of trips quite nicely into what I feel like my living has been in the last week. We spent a lot of time in the garden at the weekend, and a lot of what we were doing was kind of being very creative with what we actually did
Yeah.
have, like finding things that. I mean, we've been, you might have heard us say this already, but we've been out and about kind of playing around on the farm and in the lanes where we can kind of walk and wander around. And we found, what have we found? One, two, three, four, five, six tires that have been abandoned, like, off cars or vehicles, out in the kind of bush. And we have a lay-by at the
Some
top
of
of
them were
our
very
lane. And
grown over in prickles and all sorts,
yeah,
and we've
and
foraged them.
honestly, I don't feel like before this that I would have even looked twice at a tire and gone, "Oh, what can I do with that?" But we've taken three, and I've made a little kind of what do you call it, like a built-up flower bed, and we've taken three, and we've used them for a compost heap. So we've kind of started building a compost heap
And we're
inside
going
the
to find
tires.
another one and make a swing.
Yeah, so now we're in that kind of mode of what can we do with tires? Let's go and find some more. So just it feels to me like my living in the last week has been kind of both kind of being creative and also kind of visiting kind of hobbies and interests. And one of the things I found myself doing today, which I haven't done for a really long time, was writing someone a letter. Like, when did you last
Yes.
write someone a letter and actually find a stamp and get ready to post it? And it just occurred to me, like, we're in slightly unusual times. Something feels a bit different at the moment with how we're living and what we kind of are allowed to do and what's safe to do and what we should be more considerate about doing. And for some reason, I can't remember. Oh, somebody sent a message in one of my WhatsApp groups and said something about, oh, we've received our birthday card today. And I just thought, oh, how nice to receive something in the post. So I just thought of a couple of people I kind of thought my letter, and I'm going to post them to those people because it occurred to me to do that. And it feels a little bit like being in this position, being in this kind of lockdown territory, if you like, is sparking ideas that
Mm.
I don't think it would have occurred to me to write a letter in the way that I did today, in normal circumstances.
Yeah.
So kind of that's been a little bit kind of living for us as well. That kind of,
Mm.
hey, let's look at, what can I do with a tire? Oh, I could write someone a letter. I've not done that for a while. And just some stuff is kind of sparking.
I've also noticed that each week, like most people, I guess, we put out our recycling and our rubbish, and we have had a lot less waste and
Yeah.
all sorts of things in the house because we have been creative with our meals, creative with what we're
Yeah, Deb was
doing.
digging through the recycling yesterday, going, "Oh, I can use that for a little plant pot, a
Yeah.
little cedar." And but yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, we were. So we've been a lot more creative with those things. And I really hope that some of that learning sticks
mm,
when we come out of this, because I can really see how much of a throwaway society we live in at this time.
yeah,
When I was small, my grandma was she had a saying that was always, oh, you stretch or you starve. And it was kind of this, she would always
yeah,
be reusing something and things like that. And I think, certainly me, this isn't a criticism of everyone else, but certainly I had kind of lost all that and
Mm,
kind of very much moved into a very throwaway attitude. And it's been some really beautiful learning to see what we can make from what we already have, and how, and actually what a buzz you get from creating, some of the stuff that
mm,
we've created over the last few days. It's just been really, really lovely to do that. And so this might be a little bit weird, and sorry, but what am I actually loving? I'm actually loving lockdown at the moment. There are definitely some things that I'm not loving about it, but generally speaking, I think there is a lot of learning for us here, and I'm actually really, our household, we've settled into, there's a beautiful feeling in our house. We've settled into a really into a beautiful rhythm. We're very kind. There's a lot of kindness, a lot of helpfulness in our house, a lot of creativity. So I'm, apart from a couple of things that I'm not loving so much, like not
not
seeing my
seeing,
little
yeah.
grandson and my family, but I'm actually loving lockdown. A lot of the things that are coming out of this, I think it's been amazing. I think it's been some beautiful living and learning.
Mm, yeah, I agree.
Mm.
My loving this week is we as soon as kind of lockdown started and we saw kind of what was happening in terms of people being a little bit worried, stressed, and concerned about what's happening, we set up a coffee and chat.
Mm.
We kind of said, let's do once or twice a week an hour on our Zoom, and just invite anybody that wants to connect. Bring your cup of tea, bring your coffee, bring your
Yeah.
biscuits, and just come in. And it's very informal. We don't have like a we'll talk and you listen. It's just come in, share what you want to share. And there's been some absolutely beautiful conversations that have ranged from everything like people saying, oh, I've just started learning to make soap, or
Yeah.
create a garden, all the way right through to actually looking at the deepest truth of who we are. So I'm absolutely loving all of the people, whether you've made it to one or every single one of our coffee and chats since this. I'm absolutely loving all the people that are making that a really beautiful community
Mm.
space. We definitely, a massive part of what we want to do with our business is build a community around this conversation.
Yeah.
And I think we'd kind of got it set up in our minds that that was going to be Devon based. That was going to be going out and
And
seeing
what did we
people.
know? There's our living and learning.
And who knows? It turns out, God had other ideas. But whether that does roll into something else once this is finished, or whether that's just a beautiful in this moment, in this situation,
Mm.
I'm just loving the people that kind of turn up and give us the opportunity, precious moments on there.
Yeah,
So
it has been absolutely
I'm
beautiful.
loving our coffee
Mm.
and chatters. So to anyone that's turned up for those, thank you. I'm enjoying them. I hope you are.
And if you haven't made one and you want to, if you're watching this and you don't
Yeah.
know what we're talking about, or you haven't been at one of our coffee and chat,
And
there's definitely information about it on our Facebook page. Yes, and if you sign up for our mailing list, you do get information about that and the Zoom link to be able to join us. And if you do only want to do it for that, and then you want to unsubscribe from our mailing list, which
we'll let you,
which we're absolutely hoping that you wouldn't do, but then you can. But
no,
yeah,
cool.
they're really wonderful. They're interactive. You can speak with us, and yeah, we have had some amazing things happen on our coffee and chats.
Yes, we have.
We have indeed. So, moving swiftly on, time marches by, doesn't it?
It does.
So,
It does.
so our question this week is: can a pandemic cause me stress? Now, that is an interesting one, isn't it? Because we are right in the middle, as I'm sure I have ever lived through, and there's nobody else that I have spoken to, from my elderly parents to anybody you speak to. Nobody has ever quite experienced anything like we're going through right at the moment, and definitely some people we have spoken to are struggling and not enjoying these times, and they're frightened. We spoke, when we first started here, we spoke about doing a course around money, because we definitely have had some people reach out to us who have got into a lot of unhelpful thinking and worrisome thinking around some of the impacts that might come out of everything that's going on now. So this question, was asked, that it's kind of like somebody was really, really stressing. And then obviously there is the side of it that there is a virus going around at the moment, and there are varying. I have read all sorts of different reports about how poorly
Mm,
some people can be, how some people are
yeah.
barely aware that they have got this and have tested positive, and obviously there is the reported deaths every day. So there is something going on in the world that I don't think anyone has ever lived through anything quite like this. And
Mm,
there is a lot of people who are struggling and stressing and getting into a lot of difficulties for all sorts of. And then I'll question, can a pandemic cause me stress? And obviously, everything that Bec and I talk about, everything that we point to, one of the things that we share is that when we get stressed, when we get upset, when we get caught in these places and feel very, very scared and feel isolated and alone, you know, we point to, where is that is impacting on um, all of society. The fact that we can't go out, the fact that we can't go to work, the fact that some of us are not earning money, the fact that certain sections of our community are being run ragged because of the work they're doing, and other people are being asked to stay at home. There's a lot of things and it really, really, really looks as if stress can come from that. In my experience, what I have seen is that when we know where our stress comes from, it becomes, we have a very, very different experience of it, which is why we share what we do.
mm,
Because I totally get that it looks like
yeah.
stress. And I'm not kind of saying you're not stressed, don't worry about it, it's everything. It's, if that is how you feel, that is how you feel. But what we would like to share, what we do share with you, is kind of to get curious about where do our feelings actually come from, whatever those feelings are. And what Sydney Banks shared, this the three principles, the inside out understanding, this understanding that we share and talk about all the time. What Sydney Banks shared with us was that he talked about the huge role that our own thinking plays in the experience that we have. And like just now in the living and learning, when I talked about the fact that I was loving lockdown, and I'm sure there are plenty of other people who are having a similar experience to me. Parts of it they're loving, parts of it they're not. I'm sure there are people that are hating it. Every experience you could
Mm,
have all happen. How can that be? And that is because all human beings have the ability to think. And we are going to big and scary and going to affect you in ways you don't want it to affect you. You're going to feel stress. But that is because the thinking that you're having in that moment is stressful thinking. And that is how this system works. And I don't even know, if I'm honest with you, why understanding the system gives us relief. But my experience is always that as our understanding, as our consciousness jumps, we do get relief from that stress, even if the circumstances stay the same.
confrontational, I think, sometimes when we kind of say, it's not the pandemic that's causing you to feel that way. Because I know for me, like if someone if I'm struggling with something or I'm feeling something and someone kind of says to me, yeah, but that's not what's causing it, you're having a thought and that causes it can feel for certainly a minute when kind of invite you to see that actually that stress doesn't come from the outside circumstances, but our internal thoughts about it, is because that kind of brings about a freedom that we can't get in another way. Like if the system worked, what we kind of would term outside in, if it was right, there's a pandemic, you're in lockdown, these are the rules, and those circumstances meant that you would feel stressed because that's where our stress came from, the outside, then we're kind of trapped with those kinds of feelings. And
Mm.
it means that we're, or somebody else's version of, is not a good experience. We can actually be in something like this and have a freeing experience of it and have, the good, the bad, and the ugly experiences of it. Because actually, when we see that our feelings come from inside of us, we are then free to have a different experience. we get a different thought a moment later, or a day later, or a week later. And it then means that we're not trapped into, this is my circumstance, so this is the feeling I'm going to get.
Mm.
We're actually in a position where it's like, this is the circumstance, and I can have any number of feelings about it, and they can change moment to moment. And it's irrelevant whether what the circumstances are, because my feelings are going to come from me. And so when we kind of say, that kind of stuff, it's not so much about us being, kind of confrontational, and it it can sometimes feel like we're kind of going, get a grip, life's not hard. But actually it's about going, here's an opportunity for freedom. Conversations with, we were having a conversation with somebody earlier, and I won't kind of share their personal situation, but on paper their personal situation could be look extremely difficult. But I've watched that person have insights and have kind of moments of freedom of, oh, I feel what I think, so I can actually enjoy my circumstance. I can actually get something amazing out of these circumstances. And to me, there is so much available to us as human beings. Like, we are gifted with something incredible, that actually this is an inside out experience, that our human experience works from the inside out, is a gift that keeps on giving, to use a cheesy phrase. It really is, like, because it just means in every single moment we can have an entirely different experience without being reliant on our outside circumstances having to change.
Mm. Yeah, and while you were talking there, kind of what was occurring to me was just how amazing it is that the system is set up that way, and yet how much it can feel, if you are listening to this and this is quite a new thing to you, and it just feel like, and I kind of get, I haven't got to this age in my life without having some moments in some circumstances, some moments in my life that have, yeah, I've been there. So this isn't about kind of making light of that. This is exactly like Bec says, an invitation for you to see that freedom exists even in those moments, even in the midst of a pandemic, even in the midst of something that has never happened in living memory before, circumstances that I don't know if this has ever happened, in something quite like this has ever happened in the world before. And when you think about it, when every moment is fresh and new, nothing's ever happened the same. Like when we come out of this, when we went into World War II, we'd already had World War One, so we were kind of like, well, after a war this might happen. But we have no come from that, not knowing, that uncertainty, the times we are living in. But yeah, and we're not here to insult anyone, and kind of, it's more of an invitation to look and see for yourself what you can see. What if stress didn't come from that? What if your bad feeling, whatever it is, didn't come from your circumstances? What if it did come from your thinking in the moment? And once you get curious and start to look for that, you will see something for yourself. And the moment that's it. And obviously, again, I haven't got to this age without making assumptions about what is going on, and making assumptions about how life works. When someone kind of said to me when I first came across this, they're going to tell me how life works, I was like, well, you're about 30, you feel what you think. As a human being, you have the power to think, and then that thinking comes to life through you and creates your experience in that moment. I was kind of like, what now? But if we get curious, if we look at that and see for ourselves, it is amazing, the changes that can occur from that place. So this is always, not an insult to you, more of an invitation for you to look for yourself.
With you.
No.
Well, when Deb was kind of sharing there about kind of, the invitation again, this little metaphor popped into my head. And I was kind of remembering when my dad lives in Spain, and when he very first moved out to Spain, the first apartment he lived in, and I think this is quite common in Spain, they have on the window, they often have shutters. And they're often those kind of metal ones where you have like a little pulley thing and they kind of drop down and then they lift back up. And if you put them down at night, or if you're going away for a few days, you put them down, and they're solid kind of metal. But because of the way that the kind of metaphor that came to me is, if you don't do that, if you don't kind of put it all down, even the teeniest, tiniest chink of light that comes into that bedroom just cracks open that solid darkness. Just this, like it's not as solid when there's just the tiniest amount of light that creeps in. And for me, even if you can't necessarily see it here in this particular, the kind of lockdown pandemic scenario, see if there's a chink of light anywhere. Is there anywhere that you can kind of see that feelings are coming from inside? And start to explore that more. Start to kind of look for that chink of light, because I guarantee, like, the difference that tiny little bit makes, it just removes that absolute. Dad in Spain, it would be like, oh, I don't want any light to come in. But yeah, it's just seeing that, just that little opportunity for something different to come in. And even if it's not this particular, if this scenario feels too hard to kind of look at, then anything at all, just have a look for that little bit of light, because it makes the world of difference, whatever it is that's kind of, whatever feelings it is you're having.
Might have a little bit of a chink of light, might give you somewhere else to explore, something else that you might be able to see. But it is about seeing something for yourself, because it is only when you see it for yourself that things change for you. Don't cause us to feel a certain way means that it is always available to us to have an experience of peace and calm in any circumstances. And it's not about always having to feel great, but it is kind of knowing that there's something else on the table, which makes life a lot more fun and interesting.
A beautiful big buffet.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I think we will move on to our topic this week. So our topic, which as usual follows on very nicely from our question, our topic this week is love and trust. So yeah, two quite big words, aren't they, really? Love and trust.
I feel like it was me that plucked this out of thin air last week, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We often sit down before the YouTube show starts and kind of think, oh, what are we going to talk about next week, so that we can let people know. And I feel like for some reason last week we were about to go on we haven't come up with next week's. I feel like we were a little bit on the hop last week, weren't we? And I went, love and trust, because actually I think that had been my learning last week a lot. The kind of word trust had just been, I don't know, rumbling around for me, the word kind of trust and what that means. And I don't know, many of you that watch this, you might know that we start again. Many of you who watch this might know that we grew up in a church community. And one of the kind of, we both, I think, read our Bible a lot, and particularly I did a lot of Bible study. And one of the Bible verses that really used to stand out to me was faith, hope, and love. Like, there's a whole Bible verse about kind of faith, hope, and love. And for me, I don't know, something in those words really used to kind of resonate and spark something in me. And I think I kind of maybe almost squash faith and hope into the word trust, because I feel like faith can sometimes be perceived a little bit like an empty thing, a little bit like, oh, you're just putting your faith in something you don't really know about. Whereas for me,
the illusion that we are not, it can't change it. Nothing can change the fact that that is what we are. And I guess, again, this is one of those invitations that we are so good at giving. Get curious about that. What if that were true? And just play with it for yourself and see what it is you find. Because again, going back to know yourself, this is kind of that investigation. It is an invitation for you to look and see what you see for yourself. If you hear us saying, so our basic ingredient is love, what does that mean? Play with it for yourself and see what you find, because that if we are made from love in that way, if that is our basic ingredient, it means that there is no way we can lose that. Like you're talking about the river always being flowing, no matter
Mm.
what, that river is there. Even if you have wandered so far from the path, you can't see it. You know, that love that is who we are is always there. Even if we have got so caught in our stressed out, whatever it is, so caught in the thinking in that moment that we can't see, or it feels like we have lost that love or lost that connection, it can't go anywhere.
Mm.
It can't, we can't, that can't happen. It can't be removed from us. And when we kind of start to see that, that in me is is how I can trust this system. You know, when we are living normal, you know, when we're just living moment to moment, when we're just doing all the ordinary things, when I'm out in the garden, when we're cooking dinner, when we're kind of preparing whatever it is we're going to do on these shows, everything, it knowing that I am that love gives me, that's what allows me to trust in life, to trust that this is the way forward, to trust that sharing in this way is a good idea. And somebody hopefully will hear something from that.
Yeah, very much so. And I don't know, something about the kind of word love really resonates to me, but I'm also aware that sometimes that word isn't quite the right word for some people. That kind of saying our base ingredient is love means something to me. I have like a reference for what that is. But I think kind of what Deb's saying in that kind of invitation is know for yourself what that is. Because we don't kind of mean love in a flippant, I love my hairstyle or I love my partner or whatever. We're kind of pointing to something way deeper and way beyond that. And I know we can often get tripped up on kind of words and stuff, can't we? So it's investigate for yourself what that base ingredient really is. It's kind of, it's a goodness. It's the entire energy of the universe is what it is. That's another way I like talking about it. It's that whole energy that creates everything that goes on out there, everything that's kind of,
All the seeds that I'm going to plant in
yeah,
my garden
yeah,
created,
the
yeah.
same intelligence
That
and
creative
energy,
intelligence.
yeah, that will make those seeds
Mm.
kind of pop into
It's quite,
something.
we talk about it very flippantly, but it's quite wow, isn't it?
It's very wow.
It's a huge thing.
Mm,
So yeah.
yeah, so kind of, I don't know, just be maybe a bit curious about whether that whether you can see that base ingredient as something that we're kind of pointing to here. We're using the word love, but test it out for yourself and see where that base ingredient is and what it is for you. Because I think when we share these things, it's always that don't get too hooked on the words. Kind of listen as though you're listening to music, and something in you will kind of hear on a deeper level what that kind of love and trust is.
It's that getting the map confused with the territory, isn't it?
Yes.
It's kind of like words are metaphors, words are just ways of pointing towards something. They are not the thing itself. So yeah, it's kind of, what is it that love points towards for you? And maybe substitute a different word if that doesn't
Yeah.
work.
And share with us what you kind of see on that.
Absolutely. We always
Comment.
love your
Yeah,
comments.
we
We
love the
always love,
comments on the
yeah, we
YouTube
do.
show. So if there's something you kind of go, oh, it's this for me, we'd love to hear from you.
We absolutely would, yes.
Yeah. So
I'm aware our hour is almost up.
it is
Goodness me,
indeed.
how do these shows go so fast? I don't know. The weeks in lockdown are just flying by.
They are.
Okay, so
Can you read on the board
just
what
about
next week is,
just
Deb?
about, yes. So our topic, we would absolutely love you to join us again next week. We will be back here again at the same time from 4 till 5. And our topic next week is going to be false highs. You know, how many times have you tried to get a good feeling and what you've got is a false high? So come back and hear what we have to say about that.
Yeah, like fool's gold, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Fool's gold is a brilliant metaphor for it. Yeah.
And our question next week is, how do I change my thoughts and behaviours? So I think next week's show is going to be a cracker. We will hope to see you there. And in the meantime, as we mentioned, we've got the coffee and chat. So we'll put some details below about when that one is. And as always, on a Thursday, which is tomorrow, you might be watching this, so you might have missed it. But we do a challenge in our Facebook group on a Thursday. So if you're not in a Facebook group, it would be great to have you join us for
Yeah,
that. We do
please
that
do.
every week. So
We do.
yeah, it would be lovely to have you. Thank you very much for joining us for our show tonight, and we hope to see you again
Yeah,
soon.
take care and have a great week. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.